Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today I got a very fun, very exciting, and very unexpected video for you guys tonight because just a few hours ago, Jnmartin uploaded their GitHub repository for the Dreamcast port of Mario Kart 64. So what you're seeing here is Mario Kart 64, but it is running on Sega Dreamcast. More specifically, because I know you're going to ask, it's running on Flycast and does emulate. And I do have this tested in a GDEMU drive as well. I had a friend actually take a look at it and it loaded up perfectly fine because my GDEMU has a cold solder joint on one of the legs of the SD card slot that I still need to repair. But this is based in part on the Decomp project for Mario Kart 64, the same one you've been seeing PC ports and static recomps of. But Nintendo doesn't do what Sega does, or Sega does what Nintendon't more specifically, so we're going to be playing Mario Kart on Dreamcast today, and that's absolutely insane. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. And before you ask why do this, the answer is why not. Seeing Mario Kart 64 run on the Dreamcast is absolutely hilarious and fun in all of the strangest ways. It's just one of those things that aids in development of new Dreamcast games as well, because the more you learn about the hardware and actually running things on it, the more fun it's going to be. And as far as that Jumbotron screen being missing, I'd have to check real hardware to see if it's still there or not, because again, this is literally the first draft. It's been live for about a couple of hours, and as far as how to build it, you're going to need Linux or Mac, and you're going to have to basically clone the GitHub repository and do a build yourself at this point in time. But something tells me some sites will probably have pre-built versions of this up very shortly. But seeing Mario Kart 64 on the Sega Dreamcast is just absolutely so much fun, and I will say it runs stunningly because of course the Dreamcast has a lot more horsepower than the Nintendo 64 ever did. In my time with this game, which has been limited because again it was just come out today, it does run at 60 frames per second. I don't really have any slowdown whatsoever. It just plays like a faster version of Mario Kart 64 than you would get on N64. And even though on Nintendo 64 this game's performance wasn't the worst thing in the world, it definitely benefits from a lot better frame rate as we've seen on the PC ports and the static recomp as well. I'm just showing you the entirety of the first race here so you can get a sense of what it actually feels like on Dreamcast, from the final lap sign coming down to all of the pre-rendered sprites that basically came from 3D models. This just looks like Mario Kart 64, and that's because it is Mario Kart 64. There's something about the analog controls here on my PC that just feel a little bit smoother than even the N64 version of the game. Now I'm sure this is going to continually get work, and it's probably going to improve, and you may even see some mods come over in the future if other intrepid developers want to do this. But it is absolutely wild what the Dreamcast has been able to do in like the last 6 months to a year. We have Grand Theft Auto 3 on the Dreamcast, we have Mario Kart 64 on the Dreamcast, Doom 64, all sorts of amazing experiences just because developers out there want to make this happen and want to see you smile when it comes to being a Sega fan. And this is the type of stuff we always talked about in the day the console wars. Nintendo had their exclusives that Sega would never get, but now you have Mario Kart 64 on a Dreamcast console, which begs the question. I feel like somebody should probably down convert Sonic Adventure to the N64 and get that whole thing running just so that the overall console wars can still be at par. Now I don't actually expect anyone to really do that. It would just be hilarious to see something like that actually be done, but there are ROM hacks on N64 bringing over some of Sonic Adventure into the Mario 64 engine just kind of for fun, so it kind of technically does exist. But as we go through Moo Moo Meadows here, absolutely looks great on the Dreamcast, especially with Flycast, and it's going to look great on your television as well if you have a CRT or maybe a VGA monitor with your Dreamcast box. But leave me a comment down below and you tell me, what one other game from Nintendo 64 would you love to see ported over to Dreamcast? For me, I always pick Bomberman Hero for my game of choice, and that is a game that could definitely use a couple extra frames, so hopefully one day that sees a decomp and can get a port over to the Dreamcast as well. But there's been so many fun developments both on N64 and Dreamcast in 2025. All these decomps, all these recomps, just bringing fun into a whole new direction, and obviously Mario Kart 64 and Dreamcast is part of that. But it's time for a soundtrack sample and hear the music and sound effects of Mario Kart 64 coming out of Dreamcast code, not N64 code. Basically it sounds exactly the same, but it's on completely different hardware, and that is just absolutely wild. I mean, it just sounds like Mario Kart, and that is a compliment because obviously not only is the music good in this game or the sound effects, but obviously Jnmartin got the entire sound engine and all of the underlying assets working on Sega Dreamcast and sounding exactly like they would expect them to. And that in and of itself is impressive because trust me, this is not a small amount of code. Even if you have something like the source or a deconk, you still have to make the whole thing work. And that is down to the fact that there are new and more efficient tools as far as coding on the Dreamcast are concerned. There's a lot of devs out there that are actually making new tools and figuring out new ways to use the hardware. And big thanks to Falco Gurgis as well for helping me with this video, just kind of walking me through the process of getting it running. Definitely been an asset not only on this one, but also on the Grand Theft Auto video. But again, it is just absolutely insane, and let's hope Nintendo doesn't find out because they hate stuff like this. And I'm pretty sure the Dreamcast is running this explicitly via blast processing, obviously something Nintendo doesn't have. If you can't tell already, I'm just making some console board jokes from back in the day, because honestly in the 90s it was really a Sega versus Nintendo debate, whether it was the Genesis versus the Super Nintendo, whether it was Saturn versus N64, and then when Dreamcast came along, basically Nintendo didn't have an answer for that for a while, so the Dreamcast and Sega fans were winning the entire battle. But as we go through this next course here, just take a look at the motion and fluidity in the overall speed of the game. That definitely is working in the game's favor. Now the person that does help me capture sometimes is testing this on their actual Dreamcast as well, and so that outside a few tiny little visual glitches, everything was running exactly the same. And I would have loved to have tested this further, but again, this has been out for all of 2 hours at this point in time, and I love bringing you the exciting news as quick as I can. So maybe I will run another video on this in a couple weeks, directly testing the N64 version of the game against Dreamcast. Let me know if you want to see that down below, and maybe I will make it. And don't look away, because your phone buzzes, you end up driving Wario directly into the water and screwing everything up. But let's get back to Moo Moo Meadows here. All of the sprites look so good coming out of the Dreamcast, the billboards, everything like that. It is just a ton of fun, and now it makes me think, if you can do Mario Kart 64 on Dreamcast, maybe you can do Mario Kart Amped Up on Dreamcast as well, because I recently did a video on the new version of that, and it is a ton of fun bringing in a bunch of new courses. So honestly, at this point in time on Dreamcast, the more the merrier. I love to see all of that come over, because suddenly in 2025 Mario Kart 64 is having an absolute resurgence, as is Sega hardware. We've seen so many different mods for Sega Saturn, Sega Genesis, Dreamcast, new games and translations. It really feels like the best year to be a Sega fan, because obviously outside of 9999, I don't think any other time has been that exciting to be a fan of Sega and their hardware. Now if Sega would just announce the Dreamcast 2 to compete against the Nintendo Switch 2, I would be a very happy fan, but of course there's some things that even I don't expect. Mario Kart 64 running on a Dreamcast is wild and kind of surprising, but a Dreamcast 2 is so far-fetched it'll never happen. I'm just saying that maybe putting out into the universe, you never know what Sega will do next. All jokes aside, we clearly know a Dreamcast 2 isn't coming, but the second soundtrack sample is coming, 35 seconds, and I'll be right back with a little bit more Mario Kart 64.
Grand Prix. Select your player. Okay.
I mean, it sounds like the Mario Kart 64 everyone knows, loves, and remembers. It just sounds like it's coming out of a Dreamcast. If you leave your actual cursor over here on the player select, it'll just keep saying OK over and over again, which is a fun little Easter egg because no one usually waits that long to actually get into a race. Everything from the overall menu to select your cup to everything else works. There is like one stray pixel on that OK question mark over there. Seems like there is a slight alignment thing, but again, those are the small little tiny details you might notice when you're on the first version of this actual release. But seeing this work is absolutely just so much fun. It shouldn't happen. It never came out on the Dreamcast, but now people can do basically whatever they want with the hardware and software, and that is a ton of fun. And it makes me think that there's a lot more fun in store for Dreamcast in 2025. But short of that, leave me that comment down below and tell me what game you'd love to see go from N64 to Dreamcast today, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.